Hello and welcome. I'm Sophronia Scott, Director of the Alma College MFA in Creative Writing for the 21st Century, and welcome to another Faculty Friday. This is your opportunity to get to know some of the excellent faculty we have waiting to work with you and your writing at the Alma MFA. Today I have with us Benjamin Garcia. He is on our poetry faculty. Ben's first collection, Thrown in the Throat, was selected by Kazim Ali for the 2019 National Poetry Series. He works as a sexual health and harm reduction educator in the Finger Lakes region of New York. A son of Mexican immigrants, Ben received his BA from the University of New Mexico and his MFA from Cornell University. Thanks for joining me today, Ben.
Happy to be here.
So today we are talking about reading. And I like to talk about reading because I feel it is a huge aspect of the writing life. And I feel that if you aren't reading, then you are not doing your best writing. And that this is the homework of a writer, is to read and to know what is possible about with the language. So, but you're thinking today about reading like a writer. So what's that like?
Well, first I want to say, totally agree. Reading is such an important part of being a writer. I would hope that I can read at least 10 times what I'm, more than 10 times what I'm writing, right? Like that should be the bulk of my engagement with language, because that's going to be able to inform what I do on the page. And so I think that it's a really great way of just sort of stirring up ideas, of learning from other writers, and of seeing what other people are doing, right? So I think that it's so important, and that there are different ways to read. So we talk about reading as a writer, so I'll try to go into a little bit about what that means for me. So I guess first there's different kinds of reading. So like there's reading for enjoyment, which is fantastic. And hopefully that reading as a writer also includes a level of that reading for enjoyment. It should be fun. But not just that, right? Like, so reading for enjoyment sometimes is just flipping over a page and going on to the next thing, and kind of, it can be getting swept away in the work itself, and that's a fantastic feeling, but not always a way that's going to encourage new work. Sometimes it can, right? But we might be skipping over a lot of the things the writer is doing and implementing to make that successful and make it such a smooth reading. You want to keep turning the page. And I think there's like reading, for comprehension and just kind of what's happening, which is different than reading for enjoyment, because I could totally enjoy something. I can enjoy a poem and not understand it in the first read, which sometimes makes me want to read it again. But reading for understanding can be a little bit different too, because it's more about like what's happening, what does this mean? And that is an important level of it too, and that's incorporated into reading as a writer. But I think the reading as a writer involves also a level of kind of slowing what's happening on the page down, and kind of looking at the architecture, looking at what tools are being used and why is this being effective. I like this. I like this so much, right? I don't understand this, but I like this. Let me start to figure out how this writer achieved that, right?
Yes.
And it's this shouldn't be removing the fun out of it. It doesn't, seeing how, I guess I kind of think about it as like seeing a magician, right? Seeing a magician, and what the trick they do is fantastic, and you can just look at it and just go, wow, magic. And then you can also go to the other level of learning how this trick is being done, right? And not that writing is a trick, or I don't know, maybe it is, right? Like it's this
There's
sort of,
magic.
it's a
There's a
skill.
magic there. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
magic that happens. Yes.
Right. So how did this writer put this trick together? And what is the illusion? How does that work? And then how can I start doing that myself? And then in doing that, start making my own sort of tricks or acts, you know. And so I think it's, again, just those other layers of reading, in addition to sort of going backstage and seeing an image, for example. So this image, how is that being employed? Sometimes a poem, all it needs is one strong image. And that image can carry so much, right? So how is that image being built? What is the diction, right? The very specific word choice. I'm thinking of one of the more recent poems that I reread that has stayed with me, and it had an image of a person at the end of the world throwing an orange up into the air, and the poem ends with the orange being up in the air. And I when I first encountered this poem, I had no idea what this meant, right? Like, but I enjoyed it, and I wanted to learn more about it. Like, how is that ending image working? It's like really one of the only vivid images in the poem. And then I start to think of it as, okay, so this image, the fact that this poem ends with the orange in the air, we don't see it fall to the ground. It's this moment of like precipice, of like, we know it has to come down, but we don't see it come down. It's implied, but also we never see it come down, so maybe it doesn't. Or an orange in the air is kind of like the sun in the sky, right?
Yeah.
It's in the poem, there are other things that it kind of builds in, because it's the end of the world, like this idea of food is short, food is very scarce, and especially an orange is such a vivid, and like I know what it smells like, right? It's really bright orange. And so this writer's choice to use that particular fruit of any other they could have chosen, right, is very specific. It's doing so many things. And so in just that one image, I could write an entire essay, right? And so we write critical essays as part of the program. And that's sort of what we go into in them, is how is something working? And literally in just that one image, an entire essay can be made out of it.
Yeah,
So
that's why the critical papers are so important in the MFA program, because that's the training in reading like a writer.
yeah, and for me, it's fun. I feel like the more that you do it, the better you get at it. And I also like to think of essays as like a way of sharing these discoveries, right? So it's fun to not just discover things as a writer that you want to say, but discovering things as a reader that even sometimes a writer themselves didn't necessarily intend, but it's there and we can argue for it. And yeah, I'm thinking like a student wrote an essay on a poem by Eduardo Corral, and the poem itself is talking about like bondage and sort of these ties to something. And the lines on the page start to move away from the left margin, but then they get dragged back. And it tries, like the line tries to get away, but it keeps getting dragged back. And so like one of the arguments was like Eduardo Corral is using the line and the left margin in this sort of physical enactment of bondage on the page. And yeah, and I shared that with Eduardo today. We talked online, and he was like, wow, right? Like that's not something that he necessarily would have thought of for his own work. And that's also really interesting too, right? Like you can make new discoveries. It's not that the student was wrong. He was discovering something, a new way of looking at it,
Yes.
which is great.
Excellent. And discovery is a huge part of the MFA process. So thank you for pointing that out. Well, if that's all, thank you for joining us today, Benjamin. And thank you to the viewer. I'm Sophronia Scott, Director of the Alma College MFA in Creative Writing. He's Benjamin Garcia. I hope you've enjoyed this Faculty Friday. If you'd like to know more about our program, just check out our website, alma.edu/MFA. We are currently taking applications for our next residency. I hope you'll join us. Take care. Bye.